Imagine waking up one morning, checking your bank account, and realizing you can't even afford your rent. No savings, no backup plan, nothing. Most people would panic, complain, or give up. But what would you do? If I told you that one man, standing in this exact situation, turned his financial desperation into a $31 billion empire, a company now used by over 400 million people, a company that changed the way the world travels. And to start it, he had nothing but an idea, a laptop, and he literally sold his car just to keep the dream alive. This is the unbelievable, inspiring story of Brian Chesky, the co-founder of Airbnb, the man who proved that being broke isn't the end. It's often the beginning of greatness. Brian Chesky was born in 1981 in New York, into a simple middle-class family. His parents were social workers, not business owners, not wealthy investors, just ordinary people trying to make life work. Brian grew up drawing, imagining things, building small ideas out of nothing. But he never imagined becoming a billionaire. In fact, he wanted to become an artist. When Brian was a teenager, he loved design, shapes, creativity. People around him kept telling him that design wasn't a real job, that he should pursue something normal, something safe. But Brian kept following that tiny spark inside him. Years later, he got accepted into the Rhode Island School of Design, a big achievement, but also the beginning of financial struggle. Design school wasn't cheap, and Brian came from a humble home. Still, he graduated and, like most students, expected life to simply work out. But reality hit him hard. He moved to Los Angeles, hoping to find work, but he couldn't get any solid job. His income was unstable, rent was expensive, and month by month, the pressure grew. Around this time, his friend Joe Gebbia invited him to move to San Francisco. Joe said, "Come here. Let's build something together." Brian didn't know what that something was, but he took a leap of faith and moved. And that leap would change the world. But the moment he arrived in San Francisco, reality slapped him again. Rent was even more expensive than Los Angeles. Brian checked his bank account and realized he had barely any money left. He didn't have a job, didn't have a business, didn't even know what to do next. He just had a laptop and hope. Then something strange happened. One day, they received an email. A design conference was coming to San Francisco, and all the hotels were fully booked. Every room, every hotel, sold out. Brian looked at Joe and said, "People need a place to stay. What if we become the place?" Joe laughed, but also saw potential. They had no beds, no spare rooms, but they did have 3 air mattresses. So they set them up in the living room, offered breakfast, and called the idea Air Bed and Breakfast. No big plan, no big funding. Just 2 broke friends, renting out airbeds. To their surprise, 3 people actually booked the airbed. 3 strangers slept in their house. And Brian realized something important. People were willing to trust strangers if they felt safe, welcomed, and connected. This was the first spark of Airbnb. But after the conference ended, nobody else booked. No income, no money, no business. They tried for months. They redesigned the website. They pitched the idea. They asked people to invest, but everyone rejected them. Investors said the idea was weird, dangerous, not scalable. One investor even said, "Nobody will ever let strangers into their home. This idea will never work." Brian felt crushed. But he wasn't someone who gave up easily. He understood that success wasn't about being perfect. It was about refusing to quit. And so he kept going. Rent was due again. They had no money. Food was running out. There was no hope from investors. So Brian tried something crazy. It was the time of the U.S. presidential elections. Brian and Joe had an idea. They created limited edition cereal boxes, Obama O's and Captain McCain's. Yes, cereal boxes. They sold them like collector's items. And unbelievably, they made $30,000 from selling cereal. This money helped them survive a few more months. But their business? Still failing. Then came the hardest moment. Brian checked his bank balance one morning and realized he couldn't survive anymore. The business wasn't making money. He had rent to pay. He had expenses. He had debt. He had no backup plan. So he did something that hurt deeply. He sold his car, his only valuable possession, his freedom, his comfort, gone, just so he could keep Airbnb alive a little longer. Most people would have quit long ago. Most would have said, "This is impossible." But Brian wasn't most people. He believed that ideas don't fail. People quit too early. Finally, something changed. They got accepted into Y Combinator, a startup boot camp that helps new businesses grow. But even there, they were told one simple thing: go talk to your users, meet them, understand them. So Brian and Joe flew to New York, knocked on hosts' doors, photographed homes, taught homeowners how to list rooms, how to improve their spaces, how to make guests feel safe. They didn't sit in an office. They worked in the streets, in people's homes, with real customers. And slowly, very slowly, Airbnb began to grow. More hosts joined. More guests booked. Word spread. The idea that everyone rejected began proving everyone wrong. Within a few years, Airbnb became a global phenomenon. It allowed millions of people to earn money from their homes. It changed tourism. It changed travel. It changed lives. And the man who once sold his car just to survive became a billionaire. Not because of luck, not because of money, but because he refused to quit when the world told him his idea was stupid. Brian Chesky proved that success doesn't belong to the smartest or the richest. It belongs to the ones who stay in the fight long after others give up. He proved that you don't need money to start. You need courage. You need resilience. You need belief. Today, Airbnb is worth billions. Brian Chesky is one of the most influential entrepreneurs of our time. And the world travels differently because one man refused to stop dreaming. So the next time life hits you hard, the next time you feel broke, rejected, tired, or hopeless, remember Brian Chesky. Remember the man who sold his car to build an empire. Your struggles today might be preparing you for a future you can't even imagine yet. Don't quit. Not today, not ever.